A clever individual ought to be capable of holding on to his joy internally. Diogenes of Sinope. You were taught to think that a true gentleman suffers for affection, that a man must capture a woman's heart to demonstrate his value, that the pursuit is honorable, that the yearning makes you human. But they never informed you that this game, this quest, this fantasy was meant to destroy you. They deceived you, and you paid for it with your time, your dignity, your essence. Diogenes of Sinope, the man who strolled barefoot through the grime, of Athens, who rested in a tub and ignited his lamp in daylight, asserting to seek an upright man, viewed the world uniquely. While other thinkers penned volumes on morality and the cosmos, Diogenes scoffed at tradition and directed his disdain at men ensnared by craving. A wise person, he stated, should be able to hold on to his joy internally, but you made your joy reliant on her grin, her focus, her endorsement. And in doing so, you surrendered the keys to your self-esteem. You pursue women not out of affection, but out of void. You believe you're moving toward fondness, but you're merely fleeing from yourself. Diogenes would chuckle, and he did. He once observed a young man blush near a lovely woman and exclaimed, "Don't be embarrassed. The fault is not yours, but nature's, for creating such beings irresistible to fools." You think your craving is romantic. He deemed it pitiful. You think your quest makes you strong. He saw it as frailty masked in fragrance. Diogenes relieved himself in public. He indulged himself in the market. When people gasped in shock, he responded, "If only massaging my belly would cure hunger too." Why? Not because he lacked modesty, but because he wanted to reveal yours. Your shame is the tether they attach to your masculinity. You conceal your urges not to control them, but to seem acceptable to the women you chase. You act the gentleman not because it is virtuous, but because it boosts your odds of being picked. You don masks. Diogenes incinerated masks. You construct pedestals. He demolished them with mockery. You enter spaces searching for beauty. Diogenes entered spaces searching for fools. And more often than not, he discovered them in the faces of men like you, desperate, keen, dressed like peacocks, hoping for morsels of attention. "I discarded my vessel," he once remarked, when he saw a child sipping from his palms. He pared his life down to the essentials. And you embellish your confinement. You seek silk when you haven't even mastered iron. You see, Diogenes wasn't opposed to women. He was against delusions, and there is no delusion more perilous to a man than the notion that a woman's affection will save him. He possesses the most, he stated, who is most satisfied with the least. But you are never content. You browse, you swipe, you await a message like it's a remedy. You sit in spaces surrounded by the spectres of girls who never adored you, or worse, girls who did until you offered them everything and they lost interest. You were instructed to pursue to prove yourself. But Diogenes didn't pursue, he remained still and let the truth shame the world. When Alexander the Great, ruler of the known world, discovered Diogenes sunbathing and inquired, "What can I do for you?" Diogenes didn't kneel. He didn't flatter. He didn't feign admiration. He simply replied, "Yes, move out of my light." That is strength. That is liberty. That is the man who does not chase but you. You chase women as if they are sunlight. You revolve around them like planets deprived of warmth. You mold yourself according to their emotions, their words, their desires. You sever parts of yourself to fit inside their wishes, and then you label it love. But Diogenes would term it enslavement. Not because women enslave you, but because you entered the shackles yourself, grinning with a bouquet in hand. He once remarked, "The most stunning woman in the world is nothing without integrity, and integrity is nothing without honesty." And the truth is this: most of what you term love is merely your dread of solitude dressed in verse. Most of what you offer is not generosity, but negotiation. You present her your time, your vigor, your ambition, in hopes that she will return a reflection of your value. That is not love. That is a deal, a transaction adorned with roses. And when the deal fails, when she grows cold, when she ceases responding, when she loves you less, the more you love her, you are crushed. But not because you lost her. You're devastated because you lost the only mirror that made you feel like a man. Diogenes required no mirror. He confronted the world as it was. No flattery, no false hope, no fragrance on decay. He exposed the falsehoods until the world had to either laugh or rage, because nothing angers people more than being compelled to see clearly. And so I inquire, not as a preacher, not as a judge, but as a fellow man, when will you cease chasing what will not rescue you? When will you stop confusing obedience with love, sacrifice with connection, self-erasure with romance? Because the woman you chase is not your adversary. Your illusion of her is. You believe it's loyalty, but it's dependency. You term it passion, but it's addiction. You keep assuring yourself she's different, that this one perceives you, hears you, comprehends you. But Diogenes stated, it is the privilege of the gods to desire nothing and of godlike men to desire little. So tell me, what godlike man whimpers at the silence of a woman who won't reply? You were not born to chase. You were not designed to orbit. You were built to construct. But somewhere along the way, they deceived you into believing your worth comes from being selected, not from selecting. So now you scroll through apps like a beggar, grin through rejection like a jester, and swallow your pride like it's a supplement. You term it dating. He would have termed it decay. Diogenes strolled barefoot in the streets, ridiculed the wealthy to their faces, and lived off scraps like a wolf among sheep. But even the most powerful man in the world, Alexander, was humbled before him. Why? Because Diogenes had nothing to lose, and the man who has nothing to lose cannot be controlled. But you offer her everything before she even requests. You lose sleep when she's indifferent. You alter your wardrobe, your tone, your life plans to better align with what she might favor. You claim you're merely being romantic. But Diogenes would laugh. He would bark like a dog at your performance and term it what it is: submission. And the truth that pains the most is this: she doesn't respect it, not because she's cruel, but because instinctively she knows what Diogenes knew, that anything chased loses value, that what pursues something does not possess it, it is possessed by it. And women, consciously or not, are drawn to strength, not sacrifice, to sovereignty, not supplication. Your eagerness to please has made you invisible. Your keenness has turned you into noise. You term it love. But what she sees is desperation. And when she departs, because eventually she will, not out of malice, but out of boredom or instinct or simple fatigue, you'll feel betrayed. But ask yourself honestly, what did you love? Did you love her? Or did you love who you got to be while beside her? Did you love her spirit? Or did you love the way her presence concealed your emptiness? Diogenes would remark, I'm seeking a man, not just a male, a man, a soul forged by fire, not flattery, a man who can stand naked under the sky and still feel whole, not a boy who needs a woman's love to validate his existence, not a follower, in search of a queen, but a sovereign in command of his own being. And perhaps that's the part that stings, the realization that all this time it wasn't her who was the dream. It was the feeling of being desired. And when that feeling fades, so does your sense of identity. So you return to the world bruised and confused, seeking another savior in lipstick, another goddess to kneel to, another pair of eyes that make. You feel like a man because you've never learned to feel like a man without them. And that is the tragedy. You were taught to conquer mountains but not your own mind, to seek riches but not wisdom, to attract women but not question why. And when you finally ask why, when you finally stop and examine your life, you realize it's been spent chasing shadows. Women who didn't want you, women who tolerated you, women who only loved the version of you that served them. And you thought that was normal. Diogenes didn't think it was normal. He thought it was pitiful. He once remarked, "Other dogs bite, only their enemies, whereas I bite also my friends in order to save them." So let me bite you now, brother, not to wound you, but to awaken you. Stop chasing what flees. Stop offering your soul for scraps. Stop believing love is earned by lowering yourself. A man who knows his value does not chase. He selects. He creates. He walks, and if she wants to walk beside him, fine. If not, he continues walking. That was Diogenes. That can be you, but only if you're willing to unlearn the dream and see the raw, difficult truth that the man who chases women is not noble. He is not brave. He is not romantic. He is lost. And no woman, no matter how beautiful, will ever lead you back to yourself. You tell yourself it's just part of being a man, the hunger, the pursuit, the ache. You watch movies that glorify the chase. You hear songs that equate longing with love. And somewhere deep inside, you believe that suffering for a woman gives it your life meaning, that your ability to endure rejection is proof of your passion. But Diogenes would spit at that idea, literally. He once stood before a statue and begged it for alms. When asked why, he said, "I am getting used to being refused." That was his mockery, his rebellion. He turned the world's stupidity into satire. He exposed the absurdity of begging, whether for coins or for a woman's attention. And here you are, a man of the modern age with access to knowledge, tools, and freedom unimaginable to Diogenes. And yet you beg, not for bread, for affection. You call her 10 times after a silent night. You write paragraphs she never answers. You contort your words so you don't come off too strong or too soft. You live in a mental courtroom, defending yourself against imagined accusations, hoping, always hoping, to be found worthy in her eyes. And you don't even realize it. But you've become what Diogenes despised most, a man enslaved by invisible chains. Because that's what the chase is. It's not courtship. It's not strength. It's not romance. It's servitude. And you, my brother, are the willing servant. Diogenes said, "I know nothing except the fact of my ignorance." He embraced his flaws, he wore them like armor, but you hide your flaws like their stains. You sell an edited version of yourself to the women you chase, hoping your performance earns you intimacy. But real strength doesn't perform. Real strength doesn't adjust to impress. Real strength walks into the world as it is and says, take it or leave it. Do you know why Diogenes had nothing yet was more powerful than kings? Because he could not be seduced, not by gold, not by praise, not by beauty. He did not chase because he had nothing to prove, and until you reach that state, until your self-respect is louder than your loneliness, you will always chase what you think will complete you, and you will never be complete. Let me tell you something that no one else will say out loud. She doesn't admire your efforts. She doesn't respect your persistence. She doesn't fall in love with your sacrifice. She might appreciate it. She might enjoy it, but she doesn't feel. magnetized by it. Because what draws a woman, what compels her to stay, is not the man who follows her, but the man she can't control. And here's the bitter irony. The moment you stop chasing her is the moment she notices you. Not because you're playing games, not because you're being strategic, but because when a man finally finds peace in his own skin, when he no longer needs her to reflect his worth, he becomes rare, he becomes real. Diogenes didn't need that reflection. He walked through the marketplace in broad daylight, holding a lantern, saying, "I am looking for a man," and still the world didn't know how to give him one. Because most men then and now are not men, they are roles, they are scripts. They are hollow outlines waiting to be filled by female approval. But the man who stops chasing, he is something else entirely. He is whole. He is dangerous because he no longer fears being alone. And the man who doesn't fear being alone cannot be manipulated, cannot be bought, cannot be tamed. That is what Diogenes wanted for you. Not to hate women, not to deny love, but to stop building your identity around the hope of being loved, to stop outsourcing your confidence to the gaze of a stranger, to stop believing that your highest purpose is to be chosen when your actual purpose is to choose yourself. You think chasing her makes you worthy of her, but it only proves you were never worthy of yourself. And that's the tragedy. You chase because you believe love will fill you. But real love begins when you stop needing to be filled, when you stop bleeding out your power in hopes that someone will bandage your soul. Diogenes didn't beg for bandages. He walked through life exposed, honest, free. Not because it was easy, but because it was real. So I'll ask you again, when do you stop running? Because she is not the destination. You are. You hear the word love, and your heart skips. You still want it. Even after all the disappointment, all the letdowns, all the unanswered texts, and unreciprocated effort, you still want it because deep inside you still believe that somewhere out there is a woman who will make it all make sense, one who will redeem the others, one who will see you finally as you are and not leave. But Diogenes would glare through you and say, "You have become addicted to hope, and hope is the bait they use to tame you." That's what makes the chase so lethal. Not that it fails, but that it gives you just enough to keep you moving. A smile here, a compliment there, a late-night conversation that flirts with intimacy but delivers nothing. And you bite again and again, not because you're weak, but because you were trained to respond to breadcrumbs like they were feasts. Every time she gives you just a little, you imagine the whole, you build futures off fragments, you mistake interest for commitment, attention for affection, curiosity for care. And you keep showing up, bringing your best self, your honest self, your loyal self, and leaving with less than you came with. You drain yourself chasing something that was never promised, and you call that effort. You call it devotion, but Diogenes would call it delusion. He once said, "I do not possess, so I am not possessed." Understand this. The more you invest in a woman who hasn't earned it, the more she owns you. Not maliciously, not even consciously, but power doesn't need to be intentional to be real. She controls your thoughts, your moods, your sense of self, simply by being the one you cannot stop thinking about. And while you dream of her, what dreams die inside you? While you refresh her last seen status, what dreams go unseen inside your own soul? You give your attention to her mystery, her silence, her unpredictability, but when will you turn that attention inward? When will you face the parts of you that made this chase feel like purpose? Because chasing her isn't about her. It's about escaping yourself. She is the mirage that lets you avoid the desert within. And that's why it hurts so much when she disappears. because when she's gone, the silence is no longer hers. It's yours. Diogenes didn't run from silence. He lived in it. He filled it with laughter, with truth, with defiance. He barked like a dog, not to entertain, but to expose. He made people uncomfortable because he wanted to show them how much of their lives were performance. And that's what chasing women is, performance. You become an actor in your own life. And the more you chase, the more disconnected you become from the man beneath the mask. You want her to see you, but you don't even see yourself.